They're weightless by comparison to God and his glory. How weightless are they? Glad you asked, because in verses 16 and 17, you get just how weightless they are. All the nations are accounted by him as less than nothing. They're not just nothing, they're less than nothing. But in what sense are they less than nothing? He names the name of one of them, Lebanon, the cedar forest of Lebanon, and all the animals in the cedar forest of Lebanon. If you took and you cut down the whole of the country of Lebanon and piled up all of the trees into a giant sacrificial pyre, and you went and captured all the animals and you offered all of the animals on that sacrificial pyre, it wouldn't be sufficient to assuage the glory and the holiness that God demands of a sacrifice. This is a part of speech called a synecdoche. It is a part for the whole. He plucks out a nation and he says, the nations of the earth are like this. They're unsatisfactory. They can't sacrifice enough. So let me demonstrate this. It might be like if I said to an American, if you chop down all the redwoods in the redwood forests in California, and you took all the wildlife in the state of California and you laid it on the altar, there wouldn't be enough forgiveness available in that sacrifice to assuage one single person in the state of California. How much less the nations of the world? If you burned all the trees and all the animals, it wouldn't be good enough to satisfy the justice of God. You need another. This is why we need the cross, because that's the only sufficient sacrifice in the blood of Jesus himself. The nations are accounted as nothing less than nothing when compared to the glory of God. It's just a drop of water. It's just a speck of dust. You want to really appreciate just how magnificent and grand the glory of God is? I've got an exercise I want you to do, kind of a mental exercise. I want you to consider total depravity for a minute, something that we really believe in here. When you want to start considering how glorious and grand God is, you need to stand on your own depravity and consider how low that is. And when you really understand what total depravity is, it doesn't give your feet a firm foundation to stand on. It doesn't give you a good starting point. What it does is it opens the floor up underneath you and you fall. And you realize just how deep your depravity is, so that when you see the glory of God, it seems 1,000 times greater and higher. You know the lyrics to the hymn, Holy, Holy, Holy? I want to compare two pieces of music to help you see this. Holy, 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 though the darkness hide thee, though the eye of sinful man thy glory may not see. Only thou art holy, there is none beside thee, perfect in power, love, and purity. There is none beside him, there is none above him, and we're so sinful, our eyes can't even see him. And when you do see him, it's from so far away due to your depravity that it's almost dimness. Let me compare this to one other song that I find very meaningful, although not a hymn, written by somebody who became a Christian, and I think he was wrestling through his humanity when he wrote it. Kerry Livgren in the song Dust in the Wind. I think he was meditating on Isaiah 40 when he wrote this verse. Same old song, just a drop of water in an endless sea. All we do crumbles to the ground, though we refuse to see. Dust in the wind. All we are is dust in the wind. We're like a drop of water in an endless sea, and we're just dust in the wind. The nations are like a drop of water from a bucket, or like a speck of dust that doesn't move the scales. This is what we are. And if you want to see the glory of God, this is the position from which you can see it. And it's a position from which you will never put yourself. Only God will put you there and reveal himself to you in the humility of our depravity. I remember the first time I ever went to Switzerland. I'm from the east coast of the United States, and I'd seen the Appalachian Mountains many, many times, the highest of which is about 6,700 feet. And then I came to Switzerland when I was a teenager, and I remember seeing those mountains for the first time, and I never got over it. I never got over seeing the Alps, and no matter who I ever tried to explain it to, I always felt like there aren't words for me to describe this to somebody who's never stood before mountains like that before. And so I remember when we came here, the first time we went down to Switzerland for the summer retreat, I remember my kids were in the back seat. They were ages 9 and 11. They're in the back seat of the car and doing what age 9 and 11 boys do, which is argue with each other and talk loudly the whole way down there. And as we approached the border of Switzerland, I warned them. I said, soon you're going to be able to see the mountains. Soon you're going to see the Alps. And when you see them, you won't believe it. You won't believe what you're about to see. There's no way I can explain this to you other than to say, when you see how high and grand and colorful and covered in snow they are, it will make you feel like you're standing in a hole looking up at the sky. They kept on talking. They kept on noising. They kept on back and forth. We got a little further. We went through Bern, and I said, pretty soon you're going to see it. Pretty soon the clouds are going to break, and you're going to see it. They kept on noise. Pretty soon I said, hey, fellas, what's that purple up in front of us? Clouds, Dad. A few minutes. Hey, fellas, what's that up there on the horizon? What is that I see? Clouds, I think it might be clouds. That can't be mountains. They're too high up in the sky. Are you sure? Are you sure that's what it is clouds? And the closer we got, finally it got quiet. And they said, wow, they're so big. It feels like I'm in a hole in the ground looking up at mountains next to the sky. This is the experience of the glory of God. When all you are is a drop in the bucket and dust in the wind.